All right, now that we have our editor set up, we know what we're building, let's go ahead and lay out our project. So I'm in Visual Studio Code, and you'll notice that once I click on this, if you don't have our Explorer open, you click on it, and we're going to start adding our folders and files that we need to create this project. The first thing that we're going to do is create the folders. Now, if you haven't done any web development, you can go back and watch my other videos, and I talk about what we're going to create and, and those kind of things. We're going to kind of keep it simple here, but one file that we're always going to create is our CSS file. That stands for Cascading Style Sheets. If you don't know what that is, I would recommend going out and Googling that term. It's been around for a long time, and it's going to help you create your websites. Now, I want to say that once you generate a folder in Visual Studio Code, this folder is selected. So if we actually create another one, it's going to put the new folder inside of the CSS folder, and we don't want that. I hit escape there to get rid of that. So make sure that you click somewhere down here, and then we can create our other folders if need be. And for this one, we're also going to create another folder called Images. Okay, so we have our CSS and we have images. Now I'm going to give you all the images needed for this project, and it'll be listed down below in the description where to get those. Also, I talked to Mooj, and he actually is going to share the production link of our Adobe prototype. I'll put that in the description as well. So now that we have these two folders, we're going to create the index file. Now, an index file is always the home page that you see on a website somewhere. So if you go to, like google.com, it pulls up an index. Now, theirs is a little bit more complicated. I'm sure it's just not index.html. But anyway, usually the home file is index.html. It's all lowercase. In web, we always use lowercase for everything. There are exceptions, so don't comment below and go, oh yeah, we name all of our classes with an uppercase. Yes, I get that. But for beginners, I always tell them lowercase everything. It will help you out, and really probably 85% of everything is lowercase anyway in web development. So we're going to create our index file, and it's just lowercase index.html, and then hit enter. And once you do that, once you create a file, it will open up in our editor over here on the right hand side. Now I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the welcome screen. We don't need that anymore. And we're right here, and notice how it doesn't have anything. So in PHP Storm, if you've watched some of my other videos, when we create a new HTML file, it just scaffolds out everything, which means it just adds the code in there. Well, again, this is one of these things that you have to get used to in Visual Studio Code, and we have snippets for this. Now this is called Emmet. It was pre-installed. We didn't add that. We're going to add an exclamation point, and you'll notice don't hit the space bar, don't hit anything, just hit the exclamation point, and you'll see it says Emmet abbreviation. So anytime we use a snippet or Emmet or anything else, we're going to hit basically the shortcut, which in this case is an exclamation point, and then we're going to hit the tab key. And you'll notice now that everything is kind of scaffolded out for us. And you'll see the highlighted areas in there. Now the highlighted areas are tabbed areas that we're going to go to. So you'll notice that the device width is highlighted. If I hit the tab key, it moves to the initial scale. Most of the time, we're always going to leave those by default. So I'm going to hit tab again, and then you'll hit tab for the fourth time, and we'll go down to the title. Now we're going to change this. I'm going to call this the Soap Factory. And I'm going to put a pipe, which is right above the enter key. Okay, you hit shift and it's right above the enter key. And then we're just going to type in home. So now we have that. And if you hit tab for the fifth time, notice it moves you right below and into the body tags. And remember, everything that we want to display on the web page is in between the body tags. Now, We have our HTML laid out, and actually I'm going to make one little change. You guys may have a hard time reading this, so I'm just going to show you how to change some of the settings to make it more readable if you need to. So I'm going to come down here and hit settings. Again, remember, click on this paper. Now I already have some predefined settings that I have, and one of those is font size, and I see it right here. I could change this right here if I wanted to, and just change it to 18. Okay, or I could come over here and notice how it changed here to 18 as well, so we could change it in either place. So I'm going to go ahead and X out of that, get out of my settings, and notice it turned a little bit bigger. So we'll go along and I'll make a couple videos at 18 font size. If you have an issue with seeing this, leave a comment and let me know, and I can make that font size a little bit bigger. All right, so now that we made a couple changes, I showed you how to do that, and we scaffold out our page, we are actually going to create our CSS file, or our cascading style sheet. Now we do this inside of our folder. Now, please, if you are going to get into web development, one of the biggest things is being organized. As a senior developer or anybody else that's looking at your code for a job, the first thing they're going to notice is if you're organized. And the bigger projects, you have to be more organized. So please use these folders and the structure that they give you all the time. Okay, so you'll notice I'm going to click on the CSS folder. I'm going to add another file inside of that, and I'm going to call this one styles.css. And notice how, again, it opened up for us. And we're going to put some basic resets in there. And our first basic reset is an asterisk. And I've talked about this in some of my prior videos, but I'll cover it a little bit here. And that asterisk means that anything or any element that is on this page, we're going to reset these properties inside of this. So for instance, everything on basically the page has now a margin of 0. So any elements on the page has a margin of 0. That includes HTML, body, H1, paragraphs, images, anything else is going to have the margin of 0. We're also going to add a padding of 0, and we're going to add box sizing. Okay, and here's one thing that I like. Notice how you don't always have to put the hyphen in there, and notice all the choices that I have. Well, I like the fact that I can just start typing just random letters. So even if I didn't want to put box, I can just start typing size, and I get that first option there. Hit enter. Don't try to type it out. Use these code snippets and these code hints, to your advantage. Okay, a lot of times you're going to misspell something or mistype something, and that's going to mess up your entire project. So we're going to type in box sizing, and we're going to use border box right here. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is set HTML and the body. Okay, we're going to set that height to 100%. Now, if you don't know what that means, I have a video called Fixed Background Scrolling Site, and it will cover actually what this HTML and body and the height of 100% will do for you and what it does for you. This is basically a way that we can set up and use our parent as 100%. Now, the next thing that we're going to do for our basic reset is, because we've removed the margins, we've taken off the space below a paragraph and below those H1s and all of those elements that normally have the big space underneath it. We've removed that using the margin 0. So we need to kind of add in our default size here, and we're going to do paragraph, and you'll notice that I'm targeting the H1s, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and the paragraph tag, and we're going to put margin. Notice I'm just using marg, and then I'm going to type in bottom. Okay, that's a neat little trick for shortcuts, and we're going to put in 16 pixels. Now, there's going to be more advanced ways to do this, and that's using REMs and setting the font size and the HTML and the body and even in the reset. And those are very cool ways to reset your font size and everything else like that. But for this basic tutorial, we're going to keep it just very simple. So this is my basic reset when I'm building a website. Okay, so we've reset the margins and the padding. We've made the HTML and body the height of 100%. Okay, and we've reset all of our headers and the paragraph tag. Now, I don't mean the header element. I mean all the H1s, which are the heading tags. Okay, so we have everything laid out. We have our CSS. Now we need to link it to our index page. And after title, we're just going to type in the word link and hit tab. And notice it scaffolds out everything we need. And we're going to put CSS. And notice how it gives us the link to that file. Now, I've watched this many of times. So somebody will actually type out href and they're not using the tab, right, to scaffold out that whole line, and they're trying to type something, and they'll get to this point and the code hinting isn't showing up, or that path IntelliSense that the extension that we installed. So they'll end up putting a / there, which ends up getting this folder structure, and then they go ahead and go, oh, well, there it is. I'll hit CSS, and now I can hit styles. And notice I'm just hitting enter to add on the rest of that path. Now the problem gets to be is that when this actually runs in a browser, this first / right here ends up messing the path up. It will actually take it outside of the project folder and you'll never find this style sheet. So just be careful when you're doing your path. And this is a relative path. And we're just going into our CSS folder and getting this style sheet. Okay, now go ahead and save that. Notice that it added a space here at the back. This comes from that prettier, and it comes from saving it. I always hit Command S or Control S to save it. All right, so now we're pretty much ready to get started adding our navigation and those big elements of the page. Okay, so we're going to do that in the next one, but our project is all set up. Oh, and we need to add the images in there. So before we finish this video, I'm going to go get the images. So let's go get those right now. I'm going to jump over to my Finder. Okay, and I have those right here, all of those images. I'm just going to copy them, and I'm going to go to my project, which is on my desktop, and I'm going to paste those in my project folder. And you'll notice that all of them showed up over here in my Visual Studio Code. Now you'll download these as a zip folder. Okay, and unzip that. Make sure you unzip the folder, and then it's going to give you the images folder. If you see a .ds file, don't worry about it. That's a Mac thing. It automatically puts it in there. Now that we see all of those images, I'm going to close off of that. And one thing I like about Visual Studio Code is that you can double click on that image from the Explorer over here, and it'll open up. And it'll show you whatever image it is, and it'll show you the whole image, and it shows you the size, which is extremely large. So we'd probably need to optimize these a little bit. We got a co-owner inside of here. Okay, so you can click on these, and one thing that's nice about being able to open these up in your editor is the fact that you can see the size of them. Okay, and that's always very important. All right, so now we have the images in there. We have our style sheet linked. We have our index linked. And now in the next video, we're going to start laying out those big sections of our site using Adobe XD and pencil and paper, believe it or not. Let's get going.